Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in the clown decade. The decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And today we are once again talking about why woke isn't over and we're not past peak woke. I don't care what anyone says. As far as I'm concerned, we went through the crazy early parts of the clown decade and things have not got better. Every time we think things are getting better, I don't know why people haven't learned it yet, they just end up getting worse. Labour yesterday cancelling the inquiries, doing basically nothing to further seek justice for the horrible people within the grooming gangs. They have a new quango to look at equal pay for disabled and ethnic minority people. And now we're getting things like this. Today our legal team submitted the application to the Home Office to remove Hamas from the banned list of organisations under UK counter-terrorism powers. You can read the full legal application here, and we're not doing that, but we are going to quickly go through this video. I mean, already this is just ridiculous production quality. They are doing this because they're not exactly expecting to actually get through with this. They're not expecting any results from this, quite clearly. This is promotion for Riverway Law. This is self-promotion to say, hello, everyone who is on the side of Gaza, we're on your side, you should use us for your court cases. That's what this is about. Hardly any of it. I mean, I say this, they actually have a ridiculously large document that I'm literally just going to go through the section titles of because they're ridiculous. But yeah, you don't make promotional material like this unless you are just trying to get things in the headline or unless you are trying to advertise your own law firm. The Good Law Project does this all the time. They will make social media posts about all their legal challenges that all fail, simply to try and get conversations into headlines, and that's exactly what this is about too.
We are instructed by Hamas.
Yeah, so this is from the Terrorist Act 2000. A person commits an offence if he invites support for a prescribed terrorist organisation and the support is not restricted to the provision of money or the property. And then in subsection 2, a person commits an offence if he arranges, manages or assists in arranging or managing a meeting which he knows is to support a prescribed organisation, to further the activities of a prescribed organisation, or to be addressed by a person who belongs or professes to belong to a prescribed organisation. If you are being instructed by Hamas, you are supporting said organisation. They've just admitted to a crime. I wonder if that's ever going to go to court.
We are today at the Home Office and we are going to hand in an application under Section 4 of the Terrorism Act to have them removed from the list of prescribed organisations.
All Section 4 of the Terrorism Act really says is you can make an application to de-prescribe a terrorist organisation from the terror organisation watch list. And it just states that the Secretary of State effectively needs to take it seriously and come to a decision within a certain amount of time. It's not particularly interesting.
We have the application here which contains very, very strong legal arguments grounded in national and international law, and we're about to hand it in to Yvette Cooper and ask her to have some courage and make the correct decision.
Yeah, and yet again, while they are literally at war with Israel, who are obviously one of our allies, and after doing a literal terrorist attack back in 2023, I have high doubts that it's actually going to get anywhere. But anyway, just looking at the section headers within the document that they are giving to Yvette Cooper, there are 7 parts in Volume 1, that's all I'm going to go through, and I'm only going to go through the title. So the first one's obvious, submission of support of de-prescription by Riverway Law. That makes a lot of sense. The second one, Hamas Election Manifesto from 2006. Now you might be wondering, why is it back in 2006, nearly 20 years ago? The reason is because the Gaza Strip has not had an election since 2006 because Hamas were elected and then took away voting rights effectively and made themselves the dictators of the Gaza Strip. Anyway, that's by Hamas. The second one, the Islamic Resistance Movement, Hamas 2000, that is also by Hamas. Document of General Principles, that is again by Hamas. The Hamas Struggle, that is by Hamas. Sixth one is Operation Tufan al-Aqsa. That is written, at least we have a name now, by Musa Abu Marzouk. He is a Palestinian politician and senior member of Hamas, who served as the first chairman of the Hamas Political Bureau from 92 until 96, and was then deputy chairman of the Hamas Political Bureau from 97 to 2013. And he managed to make a lot of money and now lives in Qatar, where other wealthy Palestinian leaders are. Which, again, doesn't exactly make me have sympathy for the Hamas movement. Either they are terrorists, and if they're not terrorists, they've extracted all the money from the Gaza Strip and live in fancy, luxurious places within Qatar and other areas of the Middle East. And finally, you have a witness statement from Musa Abu Marzouk yet again, who is happily residing in Qatar and happy to give witness statements. What effectively all these documents are blatant propaganda pieces, and this is why I don't think the attempt is going to get particularly far. At least it shouldn't get very far, because these are some of the most obvious propaganda documents that I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't matter at all what Hamas said they were going to do or what their policies were back in 2006. The fact of the matter is that they have constantly harassed and terrorised Israel, and then that came to a head back in October 7th, 2023. Anyway, blatant Islamic propaganda outlet 5 Pillars, who I've covered before, who, from my memory anyway, I think it was their deputy editor, said that this is how all Israelis should be met when coming to the United Kingdom, and it was effectively a load of people in a predominantly Muslim part of Russia storming an airport to effectively raid an airplane that just landed because they heard it came from Israel. Turns out it didn't, which... these things write themselves, you know, man. Anyway, they're also known for posting things like this recently. The influential International Union of Muslim Scholars has issued a fatwa ordering every able Muslim to immediately launch armed jihad against Israel. It's just posted there, largely uncritically, which, if you go off everything else that 5 Pillars journalists say, and have said to people like Nick Griffin, you kind of have to take it as tacit support. Not necessarily because they've posted that, but because of everything else they've said. Anyway, they post about this saying, legal challenge to end UK ban on Hamas launched. Addressing a conference in London, the legal team challenging the UK's prescription of Hamas explained the nature of their legal application and the argument for removing the Gaza-based group from their terror list. Hamas was added to the UK's list of prescribed terrorist organisations in its entirety in November 2021, based, by then Home Secretary Priti Patel, so at least she wasn't completely useless. Prior to 2021, only Hamas's military wing, the Al-Qassam Brigades, had been prescribed since 2001. The prescription made it a criminal offence to belong to Hamas, express support for it, or display its symbols. Good. Good. I don't want terrorist symbols around the UK. The application argued its prescription unlawfully infringes on freedom of speech and freedom of assembly as protected by Article 10 and 11 of the European Convention on Human Rights, including open debates and political expression. This is the problem, right? Again, it needs to be launched out there constantly. Robert Jenrick, fair enough, he wants to get out of the ECHR. Reform have absolutely no one within their ranks who wants to stay in the ECHR. A lot of the Tories do, that's why I find it hard to trust them. And it's because of exactly things like this. The ECHR has been so corrupted in terms of how it's applied in the UK. It's kind of no wonder that these lawyers are now trying to de-prescribe actual terrorist groups who have committed like the worst terrorist acts that we have seen in the past decade. Because the ECHR has been so corrupted by British law, British lawyers, British judicial activism, etc, etc, etc. So they're just joining in on the fun. And if this works, by the way, I don't want to hear anyone saying that we were past peak woke in like 2020, 2021. That is nonsense. Like, we've managed to de-prescribe a terrorist group because of the ECHR, and still most of the political class don't want to get rid of it. You know, it's only the outsiders who want to get rid of it. No, we're not past peak woke if this works. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Anyway, let's have a look at what they had to say.
We've been instructed by Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, or the Islamic Resistance Movement, Hamas, to make an application under Section 4 of the Terrorism Act.
Once again, like they said in the other video, they are taking instruction from Hamas and supporting them in getting them de-prescribed. Now, you might be wondering, well, how are you supposed to get them to de-prescribe without seemingly supporting them? Well, you can do it without being instructed. I think if you're trying to do this, you should make it look like you're doing it off your own back rather than directly representing Hamas. That is probably a better way to do it.
Earlier this morning, we filed an application with the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, on behalf of Dr. Musa Abu Marzouk, the Head of International Relations and Legal Office of the Political Bureau of Hamas.
I do not understand by the letter of the law how it's not illegal to take instruction from Hamas and not be considered to be supporting them. I suppose it can be a case of, oh, well, they're lawyers, they are able to represent everyone. The thing is that this is a foreigner who is instructing this particular solicitor firm. It's not like that this is these are British people doing this. This is a Palestinian who has always been a Palestinian living in Qatar, who is a representative of Hamas, then instructing a legitimate British business in terms of it's, registered on Companies House in Britain, to support this foreign terrorist group. I guess their best protection is we're a solicitor firm and we're just taking on a job. Well, support surely has to come in somewhere, especially if you're admitting you're being instructed by Hamas from multiple fronts, by the way. So I wonder if there's going to be any sort of counter case to this.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank each and every one of the 20 experts who contributed a witness statement in support of the application, including Professor John Dugard and Professor Avi Shleim, and to thank Dr. Asim Qureshi for his incredible work in coordinating that research aspect of the application.
Yeah, going through this, I might be wrong at the start. This might not just be a way to promote their own company. They've got an awful lot of experts to try and write up a load of nonsense to try and say Hamas totally isn't a terrorist organisation, despite what we've all seen with our own eyes. It's absolutely crazy how this is even being attempted, and it's even crazier that I can see a way in which they could win.
It's important to clarify that nothing that either myself or my colleagues say today should be taken or to be seen as an expression of support for our client Hamas, which remains a proscribed organisation unless and until it is deprescribed by the Home Secretary.
That is absolutely hilarious. That is a hilarious defence. Oh, we don't support Hamas, and nothing we say should be taken as support for Hamas. We simply are they're just our clients, that's all it is. Anyway, when it's deprescribed, then you can say we support them. Incredible defence. I can't believe he said that. I don't know why he ended with that statement.
Until that happens, it remains a criminal offence to express a belief or opinion supportive of the organisation.
Yep, that's true, and I was right before. They're using the whole we're lawyers, these are simply our clients, we don't support them defence, which I suppose by the letter of the law is technically true. And I mean, to be fair, how else are you supposed to deprescribe or attempt to deprescribe a terrorist organisation? I can see the logic, this is still ludicrous. Anyway, they then go through the details of some of their survivor testimony, witness statements and things like that, and if you've been paying any attention, you'll know what it'll involve. Israel are terrible, we're just self-defense, we just hate Zionists, totally just Zionists, we don't mean Jews, etc, etc, etc. I'm not particularly interested. I know how the arguments go. And the Times does a good quick write-up of what the lawyers' arguments actually are. So the group claimed that proscription was contrary to the duty of the British state to end genocide, that it was incompatible with the ECHR because it unlawfully restricts freedom of speech, and that it was a disproposition as Hamas does not pose any threats to Britain or British citizens. I'm afraid it actually does threaten British citizens. We have Jews in Britain. Hamas also claimed proscription hindered the group's ability to broker a political solution to the conflict and stifle conversation in securing a long-term political settlement. Yeah, I'm not shocked. We're on the side of Israel. The group also called on Cooper to concede that its little loyal Jewish Ulster is a genocidal mad dog that must be stopped, in reference to Sir Roland Storrs, the first British governor of Jerusalem. Excuse me, is that an actual quote? Apparently, Sir Roland Storrs, who praised the idea of a Zionist state as forming a little loyal Jewish Ulster in the sea of potentially hostile Arabism. No comment from me on those comments. However, it is quite clear that these lawyers are agreeing with the idea that Israel is a little loyal Jewish Ulster and that it is a mad dog. So I can see that they take classic British irony very seriously, which isn't the idea. Anyway, it then goes into detail of how the Hamas military wing was proscribed in 2001, and then in 2021 the rest of Hamas was put under the ban by Priti Patel. Again, it was probably the best thing she ever did. So in the 106-page application seen by the Times, the terrorist group describes itself as an organised resistant movement that exercised the right of Palestinian people to resist Zionism, colonialism, etc, etc. Exactly what I said they'd do. The application accuses the British state of playing a critical role in the persecution of Palestinian people and of being responsible for colonisation, ethnic cleansing and apartheid in Palestine. The application was signed by Musa Abu Marzouk, and I've done a quick little profile of him already, but they do also go in to say the official provided a witness statement and an account of the October 7th attack, which he claims that allegations of beheading babies, systematic rape and other unbelievably exaggerated crimes hold no basis. Well, they shouldn't have recorded themselves doing it then, should they? To be fair, the beheading babies bit, I believe, was not actually true. However, it doesn't stop the fact that they killed kids, people, and innocent women and children, does it? The challenge is being led by Fahad Ansari, the director of Riverway Law. He is being assisted by Daniel Grutters, a barrister at One Pump Court Chambers, and Frank McGuinness, a barrister at Gone Court Chambers. And according to the report, the lawyers involved in the case stressed that Hamas did not pay them, as it is illegal to receive funds from a group designated as a terrorist organisation. The barristers are not obliged to take the case under the legal profession's cab rank rule, and yet they did anyway. And again, they stressed, we do not support Hamas, we're just representing them in this legal process for completely free, but they don't support them. Anyway, two of the lawyers had previously made controversial comments on the long-running conflict. On the day of October 7, which resulted in the death of over 1,100 Israelis, McGuinness tweeted, "Victory to the Intifada." Again, they totally don't support Hamas, guys. They can't support Hamas, it's illegal. In December 2020, he tweeted, "Zionism is a kind of racism, and it's essentially colonial. It is manifested in an apartheid regime calling itself the Jewish state that dominates non-Jewish and particularly Palestinians." Last year, Ansari paid tribute to the leader of Hamas following his death in Tehran last July. He tweeted, "Ismail Haniyeh has been martyred. May Allah forgive him and accept his lifelong struggle for the liberation of his people." And 2 days after October 7, he criticised the Foreign Office for illuminating its headquarters in Israeli colours and accused them of the departing of siding with colonial power, carrying out genocide tonight. Absolutely incredible scenes. Again, these people definitely don't support Hamas. They're just using their same talking points. I quickly decided to have a quick look at these tweets as well, see if they were real. And amazingly, this is Frank McGuinness's. This is his Twitter profile. One, he has the watermelon to show his support for Hamas. He's also a communist. He's a barrister. His current focus is representing Palestinian asylum seekers and people fired for pro-Palestine speech. Is something in Gaelic. I can't read it. And not only that, but his Zionism tweet is his pinned tweet. This isn't some small-time, I am just an innocent barrister who will take any sort of work that he can. One, he's not being paid for it, because he can't, but two, it's quite clear that there's an agenda here. I'm not being funny, but this is a guy who clearly supports Hamas, and there is reason to investigate him under the Terrorism Act 2000. That's just blatant to me. And yet he's here allowed to challenge our very own Home Secretary to effectively make terrorism easier in the UK. This is a man who should be in jail, quite frankly. He should be investigated, and I hope they do investigate him. Anyway, while sticking to Twitter, Robert Jemrick was one of the first people to come out in opposition to this for obvious reasons. He has a Jewish wife. Just over a year ago, Hamas killed the largest number of Jewish people since the Holocaust. They still won't return 59 hostages, and yet the UK law firm thinks there is an argument for their ban to be lifted. It's sickening. It's no surprise this firm specialises in immigration cases and apparently any pro-Palestine case. Again, they're totally not Hamas supporters. But again, good tweet. Thank you, Robert Jemrick. Another person who was big on this case, of course, was Richard Tice. Here's what he had to say when he posted to Twitter. "Seriously, lawyers acting for Hamas and appealing their prescription as a terrorist group under the ECHR." And he has a little video with it. And hopefully he also mentions that they're doing it for free.
I'm not sure if it's April Fool's Day, but seriously, that vile, anti-Semitic, murderous terror group, Hamas, are appealing using, guess what? The European Convention on Human Rights against their designation in the United Kingdom as a terror group.
I know a lot of people don't like Richard Tice, but I do like the way he delivers videos like this. Small boomerism jokes that everyone likes to pretend aren't funny, but let's admit it, we all give a little smirk. And then just get straight to the point of the issue. He doesn't just say Hamas, he obviously goes into all sorts of bad names for them. Anti-Semitic, terror group, violent, all very descriptive, and again, gets to the heart of the issue. This is because of the ECHR. And, well, guess what he's going to say next?
Unbelievable. I do hope that all those Labour MPs that rush to criticise Israel at the slightest provocation, I do hope they also condemn this as absolute madness.
Another just direct attack on Labour, implying that they implicitly want some things like this. Some of them obviously do. And others effectively will be intimidated into that position too, but would never admit it. I'm thinking of people like Jess Phillips, of course.
Or what happens if the ECHR says they're not a terror group? Will Keir Starmer, as our Prime Minister, abide by that? Or will he ignore such an ECHR ruling? This is complete insanity, and another reason why we must leave the ludicrous ECHR.
All good, all perfect, all very on brand for reform yet again. It is a bit strange that Robert Jenrick didn't mention leaving the ECHR. That's one of his policies as well, but oh well, it doesn't matter. Reform MPs are very good at sticking to their policy platform for things like this. Anyway, finally, one of my favourite think tankers, Sam Bidwell, did a rather lengthy Twitter thread on some of Riverway Law's recent work after this legal challenge came out, and I'm going to handpick some of my favourites. So in 2023, they challenged the Home Office's decision to strip British citizens from a British Pakistani man who travelled to Syria in order to join Al-Qaeda, because apparently it's arbitrary and disproportionate. You know, this is the type of people we're dealing with. They also failed to argue that a Bangladeshi man of British citizenship who joined Al-Mahujah, God, I can't pronounce that, a Saudi Islamist group. This was also a man who tried and failed to join ISIS, travelling to Syria to do so. It's good to see that they failed in defending this man. Again, they have a habit of defending terrorists. How are they not? How are they still allowed to practice? But unfortunately, they're not always unsuccessful. In September 2022, Riverway challenged the Home Office's decision to remove citizenship from a Pakistani man following his conviction for child rape. The challenge was successful. The court argued that the Home Office had waited too long to issue their deprivation order. Amazing. And they're not shy about this. Sam got all of this information from Riverway's own website. They are literally a law firm that purely exist for, well, Islamists, basically. And if they're not Islamists, then child rapists, apparently. And, they hire communists and anyone who's a Hamas sympathiser, I should say. And will defend anyone who tries to become a terrorist. It's incredible. I can't believe they're still allowed to practice. This seems to be mostly what they are known for. Don't get me wrong, I totally get that people deserve to be represented and have their defence represented in court by professionals. It's the things that they're doing outside of court that is just incredible to me. Getting together this entire document to deprescribe Hamas involved constant talks, constant communications, and, let's face it, support for Hamas, a proscribed terrorist organisation. Hence they said, again, I've got to get the line again, this was absurd.
It's important to clarify that nothing that either myself or my colleagues say today should be taken or to be seen as an expression of support for our client Hamas, which remains a proscribed organisation unless and until it is deprescribed by the Home Secretary.
Just on very, very silly technicalities, they are getting away with saying that. And I don't think that should be acceptable. But we have a weak parliament, we have a civil service, frankly, that is sympathetic to people like this. We have people like Keir Starmer who think because the letter of the law exists as it is, that means that we can't actually do anything about it. You know, it has to stay this way, that's the process, when in fact you can actually amend laws to make things like this illegal, yet they won't do it. And it's amazing that we're in a place where I can actually see a world where it succeeds in their attempt to deprescribe, and, you know, I'll still have people saying, oh, at least we're winning. We're not winning until these people are out of power, as in Labour. We have people that are in power that are going to completely gut and reform the entirety of the British state, including mainly the civil service, including the judiciary, etc, etc, etc. It's a very large job. And we're in a place where we can frankly actually deal with these terrorist sympathisers, but we're not there yet. We're nowhere near there. So as far as I'm concerned, we're not past peak woke, because they're only getting stronger. So as I say, vote for anyone that's going to get us out the ECHR, anyone who's going to get rid of the Human Rights Act, get rid of the Equality Act. They are the people that we need to be supporting when it comes to the issues with the judiciary and with justice in the United Kingdom. But I think with that, that's everything I will have for you for today. So, if, it's shilling first, isn't it? Next Thursday, Laughing at the Guardian, need guests for that. Then Next Tuesday, it's also Tosh Talks. Hopefully it'll be live on the Worcester Club. If not, it'll have to be live here. For some reason, Streamlabs is not allowing the Worcester Club sites to sign in. I think it's a technical issue rather than we're banned or anything. Hell, the Worcester Club's less spicy than this channel, so it can't be that. Anyway, videos out as and when I can make them. If you want to support the channel, do subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. If you want to help out a bit more, leave super thanks, super chats, or become a channel member. You can do it in any video, any stream, and it's a really good way to help out the channel. Right, with that, as I said, everything I had for you for today, and as usual, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.